the October 5th regular meeting of the County of Newell Council. I think everyone's here, so we don't have to excuse anyone from the meeting. We have minutes of the September 21st meeting circulated. Are there any errors or omissions, or a motion to approve the minutes as presented? Adina, please.
I move that we approve the minutes.
Thank you. All in favor of that motion, please indicate. That's carried. Thank you. Are there any post-agenda items that we need to add to the agenda? Seeing none, a motion to approve the agenda as circulated would be in order. Greg? All in favor, please indicate. Thank you. That's carried. And I will note too, with regard to the agenda, we have a 10:45 presentation by Cole Steinley from the Newell Regional Services Utilities Report, and also at 11:45, Mike Murray from the Bow River Basin Council will be presenting to us. So are there any questions or notices of motion that we're aware of? Nothing online, Catherine?
No, there's not.
Councillors, anyone have a notice of motion or question? Seeing none, we'll move on to, first of all, Maria, you've got our MCP report?
Sure. So from January to September, our development permit numbers have been down in comparison to 2021 and 2022. We're about 25% less this year in this portion of the year. So that also means that our construction numbers are down. Subdivisions, we've had 12 approved subdivisions in 2023 so far, compared to 7 in 2022. So I guess that number is up. That doesn't mean that we're less busy in our department. I guess we've been still receiving lots of inquiries and interesting ideas. So working with developers and landowners, and we're reviewing the land use bylaw now that we have, kind of got into it. We've been making notes on what we think is working and what's not, and some ideas for some changes that we hope to bring to council very soon. We've also, and this is something we continue to do, is talking to our neighboring municipalities and our peers, just to make sure that we're working on the same at the same standard that they are, and bouncing ideas off of each other. So that's been great. Our intern Zachary has moved on to start his master's in planning at the U of C, and he is missed. His help was very valuable. Shannalee and Cheryl attended the ADOA conference in September. Shannalee was nominated by her peers at the AGM to sit as a board member. She's also the communications chair on the board, and she does a really good job of that and brings in a lot of knowledge. So it's been really beneficial to our department. I started taking a course on community consultation and engagement, which so far has been really great. And then Shannalee and Cheryl are also attending the Alberta Safety Codes Conference in October. So that's kind of P&D since January.
Thank you, Maria. Are there any questions? Amanda, please.
Maria, there's a lot of talk about turnaround to get a permit, and I know they're trying to streamline that. What is the length of time to get a development permit these days?
Go ahead, Maria, please.
That's a good question. So permitted use, we can generally get that issued within a week or two. For that, that's a use by right, so we just have to make sure that their proposal meets all the standards and policy in the land use bylaw, and then that's a pretty quick turnaround. Discretionary use, we say between a month around a month, maybe a little bit longer depending on when MPC meetings are. That needs to be circulated to adjacent landowners and affected parties for 21 days and then approved by MPC. So that is a little bit longer. But generally, our department is able to stay within those mandated guidelines fairly well. So we try not to extend them as much as possible.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? If not, a motion of acceptance of the Planning and Development Report would be in order. Ellen? All in favor of the motion, please indicate. That's carried. Thank you, Maria. And we'll move to item 7.1, bylaws. Council Code of Conduct, first reading. Welcome, Lane.
Good morning. The requirement for councils to have a code of conduct bylaw was first introduced in 2017 as a requirement in the Municipal Government Act. So prior to that, County of Newell Council did not have one, and neither did most municipal councils throughout the province. As things have evolved since then, there have been some areas where improvements can be made in these bylaws, and what we have presented for council is based on the collective experience of municipal councils since that requirement was first put in place in 2017. So there are a number of updates to the proposed, to the bylaw itself that are being considered for council this morning. We're asking for first reading, and that would give us a chance to let the public know about the proposed changes in the bylaw and provide any comments that they might have as well.
Okay, thank you, Lane. Are there any questions or comments? The proposed changes with the markup is provided for us in our agenda. Are there any questions or direction? Go ahead, Holly, please.
Under 3.5, confidentiality, the third point, the III, the requirement to maintain the confidentiality of information so acquired continues to apply after councillors are no longer serving in that capacity. Now, when I was comparing that with the information from the Brownlee, was it? There was a comment about confidence you can't ends when you're done your terms. I just was unclear what the actual standard is. Can you explain the standard?
You can't ask members of council to abide by certain restrictions that apply while they're a member of council, with the exception of in-camera matters. If it's a matter that has been discussed because of confidentiality reasons that are outlined in the legislation, then that requirement continues beyond your term on council.
Okay, thanks, Lane. Any other questions? We have a recommendation. Is there any direction with regard to this request for decision? Go ahead, Neil, please.
Who polices all this?
Oh, everybody. We've got authorities everywhere. Go ahead. Have you got a comment on that, Lane?
Well, the one other thing, the bylaw specifically states that if there are concerns that or complaints that are brought forward, they can be brought forward by any member of the public. Right. It outlines what the process is when a complaint comes in.
Right, that's well outlined in there. I found it an interesting document, actually useful for us to consider the matter of a code of conduct. I think it's a good process to consider, and I guess reading through it, I found it quite. It's a good reminder, and also takes to a high level what our work here is really all about. So go ahead, Holly.
Was actually more of a question for Matt, because I know you went to a session on this in some of your things. Have there been some instances where this has been very needed by councils?
Yeah, you don't. Just do a quick Google search on municipal council code of conduct issues, and you'd see a number of municipal stories pop up not too far from us. I think most of what you see within the code of conduct bylaw, I think, strikes most of us as common sense. Respectful dialogue between members of the public, staff, and council. Avoiding conflicts of interest, things like that. When things do go off the rails, what I have heard from my peers is it typically comes down to confusion on role clarity. So what's the role of council? What's the role of the CAO, the administration? They have been very useful. One of the changes I heard recommended by legal was that you don't involve the CAO in evaluating if a complaint comes in. The CAO shouldn't be part of the evaluation committee. Oftentimes, even council as a whole may want to go to a third party. So there are third-party service providers who are making a living off of council code of conduct complaints.
Okay, thank you. We have a recommendation to approve first reading, and we know, Kelly, go ahead.
Yeah, I was willing to make the motion to approve as recommended.
Okay, thank you. Option number 1, all in favor, please indicate. That's carried. Thank you, Lane. Let's move. Todd, you're welcome here this morning, Mr. Todd Green, to give us our Ag Service Board report. Welcome.
Good morning. I didn't have a chance to review the bylaw before it got here. Otherwise, I would have added you have to laugh and smile every time Todd is giving a report. It's
happens anyway.
Well, hey, it's all right. We can laugh at Todd. That's pretty easy. All right, so this is the time of year where projects kind of slow down a little bit. We go from 24 people to 12 people to 11 people to 5 people to 6 people pretty fast. So we are down to, I think there's 12 of us now, maybe 11 actually, because I think we lost one last week. But we are still trying to finalize, this thing's on, right? Roadside mowing. There's not a lot to be mowed out there, but we are doing the double passes on all the high traffic roads, and they are still clipping that crazy kochia. It's unbelievable. So if you're in the south and you haven't seen them yet, they're coming. I believe they were working towards Bow City when I passed them on Tuesday, so they'll probably be darn near to Rainier by now. They're moving very fast. They're also all moving together because we are still doing fire watch on days that we need to. If it's raining, we don't need to do fire watch. But yeah, so we're still doing that. Donovan is still kind of completing the Esplanade spraying when he can. He's also, because we don't have a lot of seasonal support for the odd jobs, Donovan's helping out with some of our winterizing, but he is still spraying some Esplanade, which is a great barrier product. The idea is you spray it down if you can get rain within 90 days or moisture, precipitation, so it can even be snow. So we're hopeful, right? Before Christmas, we'll maybe get a little dump. What it does is it locks that barrier product in the top half inch, and then hopefully doesn't allow annual weeds to grow through it. So we're trying that on some of our Downey Brome roads, some of our maybe heavier kosher roads, and just trying to get a little bit of a handle and see if it works. The unfortunate part about it, it's quite expensive per acre, so we can't add it to everything. Otherwise, we might do that, but it's a whole spray program in itself. So anyway, so that's kind of fun. We will be kind of kicking up some roadside seeding on some of the construction that we did this year. And that's, I don't think there was very much, like 4 kilometers or something. So it's barely even worth mentioning. I think that's like a day and a half of work for Tina and Patricia when they're done. So, but yeah, we talked a little bit about closing up the water systems. The Emerson facilities are all done now. They're all ready for winter. We'll be hitting the irrigation systems here next week. We have some really fun things going on right now. FCC's got their Outstanding in the Field coming up, not next week, the week after, that we're participating in. So we bring some tractors and some drills and some sprayers, and gives the kids some hands-on feel. That's the grade 4 kids. And then working with Arlene Good over there at FCC, she's got the grade 11s coming back. And then we just kind of have a little, I don't know, sit down, I guess you want to call it, and talk a little bit about agriculture. So there was a guy from FCC last year. There was another fellow, I can't remember where he was at, and then myself, and they just asked questions. It was quite fun. So we'll be doing that. We've been also working with Foothills Forage and Grazing Association. So on January 30th, I think it is, in Patricia, we're doing a producer funding opportunities type meeting. So we're hoping to get a little more information out there about some of the sustainable cap funding, the RPAP, the everything else that's out there, as well as we're going to have EFP sessions. So if anybody has questions about their EFPs, we'll have kind of some breakout rooms, and hopefully we can help get some of those completed. I think I counted the other day, we got 12 in the queue EFPs, which I think is all based on people that require those to get their second half of their funding for the projects that they've been doing. So it's just a matter of when those people have time to finish. And it looks daunting. For everybody that's listening online, it's not that daunting, and I'm here to help. I'm from the government, and I'm here to help, which is right. All right, what else we got that's fun coming up? We are helping organize 3 provincial conferences. So 2 that are very close to our association. So the AAAF, the Fieldmen's Association, we're hosting that in-service training in December. And then the glorious one that we're hosting in Lethbridge, which is the Ag Service Board Conference in January, which you may or may not be talking about later when you discuss canceling council meetings in the future. And what else? Oh, and then the Alberta Invasive Species Council, which is a group that I sit on, and we're doing that one in March. And then the other fun things that are coming up, seed plant inspections. It's amazing. It's only about a day of my life, but I get to meet with our wonderful seed plant operators and take a tour and see how they're doing, and discuss all the things going on in their lives. We are fielding a ton of CCIP calls, so a lot of problem coyotes. We had a lady that called that had the coyotes coming right on her deck, chasing her dog into the house kind of thing, which is a little scary. Does anybody have a dog door? I always thought if I had a dog door, I'd end up with one of those things in my house. Isn't, like, in the country, are dog doors a thing? Oh my God. All right, well, I'm out on that. But anyways, we have been fielding lots down in Scandia. One producer told us he counted 100. That's a lot. So usually those come when you have maybe a type of operation or an operation that has consistent dead, so a feedlot or something like that. And then what else? Oh yes, I drove around for about half a day this week, taking a look at potential soil erosion concerns going into the winter. A lot of green fields, a lot of people have put some protections in place. Even the areas that I've seen that were worked, big clods on top, which that's technically a good way to do it as well. I'm not sure what the exact ratio has to be for big clods on top versus not, but I think I found 3 fields that potentially had some concern to me. And to be honest, they were recently harvested. So it's hard to put any protections in place when you're a week after harvest at this time of year. So I'm hoping that they have a plan. I did see some manure in the corner. So I think there's a lot of good things going, and I think a lot of people maybe missed some of their topsoil that they lost in the corner. So I think there's a lot of good things going, and I think a lot of people maybe missed some of their top.
That's your echo.
I sound amazing.
You do.
I sound smart. I'm just joking. Yeah. That's about all I got for you guys. I'm glad I was able to be here today, and look forward to fielding any questions you may have.
Thank you. We are too. Are there questions? Yeah, Ellen, please.
Just the dates for the Eggman Fieldman Conference in January. Do we know what dates they are?
I sent them to Ariana the other day. I believe it's the 22nd to the 24th. Did I nail it?
Matt, please.
And we are working on the calendar for the entire year 2024 for organizational meeting. We will be suggesting you cancel the meeting on the 25th so you can enjoy the ASB conference. The night of the 24th is the banquet, so I imagine you'll be out late and don't want to race home for a council meeting. But that's for another day.
Yeah, I think at the banquet, we usually have some awards and those kinds of things, and then there's light entertainment, and then we're actually doing a live auction and silent auction for stars. So we'll be, each municipality in the south is going to donate an item, as well as we get prizes from some of our great sponsors. And then we've done this for forever. Anybody, I guess Ellen and Kelly probably remember the last time 5 years ago we had an amazing auction. It was really fun. I think Hubie even helped out with it. So.
Okay, that's next year. Go ahead, thanks. Go ahead, Kelly.
My question, Todd, is Cypress County is hosting a day or a day and a half of speakers and presentations. Do you know about this?
I believe I've read about it. I have not been involved in it or anything.
You're not, that was my question. You're not involved at any level. Okay. Have you looked at the speaker list? It's a highly funded event because they're only charging $40 per participant. I've been promoting it within my social media. Have you looked at it? No. Okay. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Holly? No? Any other questions? Go ahead, Lynette, please.
I was just curious, in your professional opinion, we are looking at, year 4 of pretty extensive drought. The kochia went stupid this year. What do you think, at what point does kochia give up? I'm curious.
In my professional opinion, I don't think kochia ever gives up. We joke that you could spit on the sidewalk, germinate a kochia plant, and it's going to grow 6 feet. Because I think honestly, it's when you talk about the genetics of a plant, it's amazing. If we could get our field crops to be that good at utilizing atmospheric moisture to grow that prolific, we would be set. But yeah, no, kochia doesn't give up. And in fact, kochia just gets worse and worse. It's I think it's resistant to 3 different groups of chemicals now. It really has a desire to survive. I wish it didn't.
Thank you. Greg, please.
Coyotes in hamlets. Should we report those within the hamlet boundaries?
You can. I don't exactly know what we would do with them. The tricky part so coyotes are one of the most adaptable animals. They're the kochia of the animal world. They live in almost every ecosystem, and they get accustomed to whatever is going on in their ecosystem. So they'll be accustomed to the people walking. They'll be accustomed to the dogs outside. They'll know which house leaves their dog food dish on the deck. They're very, very good at that. So if I could recommend anything to people that have problems in the hamlets is to try to ensure their food source is not inside the hamlet boundary.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Seeing none. Thank you, Todd.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, appreciate that. We've got Cole Steinley here. Do you mind coming up 5 minutes early? Welcome, Cole. Appreciate you coming in for the NRCS report.
And then once we get Cole, we'll get through the rest of this.
Thank you very much, Reeve and councillors. I'll just give you a few updates on some things that we've been talking over the last few months or longer. The Tilly Wastewater Lagoon, we'll start with that. We are, as per your purchasing policy, we're trying to get our 3rd and final quote for that project. So we're assured that should be on our desks in the coming days. So once we have that, we'll forward that on to the county employees, and we'll make a decision on what company we'd like to go with. We had a flat-out refusal for one of them. They thought the scope was too big for them to handle. We had the one from Lambourne. We're just waiting on a third one. I guess probably one of the biggest things that's happened in the last while, we've had a couple leaks in Rolling Hills, to no surprise to anyone. It's been a problem dealing with those over the last 6-7 years plus, just due to the infrastructure that's currently in Rolling Hills. This one was a little big. We had 2 leaks. The first one was repaired on August 3rd. The second one we repaired September 20th and 21st in the same intersection, or within about 100 meters of each other at 2nd Street and 2nd A Avenue. The problem that we had with this last one was that the leak didn't come to surface. It actually followed the bedding of the stormwater sewer pipe. Gravel followed it and actually was collecting in a stormwater catch. That's where we noticed it. And also one of the residents noticed that their sump pump was running a little more often, a little more frequently. So we knew that we had a leak just by where the water was infiltrating. Looking at the SCADA trends as well, seeing that even in the middle of the night, water usage was up higher than normal when typically there is none. So we can deduce that there is a leak. The problem with it not getting to surface and following a gravel bedding of an existing pipe, you don't know exactly where it is. So I was able to show councillors that are on our NRSC board at the board meeting last night an actual photo of what it took to find that leak. It took a full day and a half to locate it, but once it was found, it wasn't that big of a deal in that we just reduced pressure, we put a repair clamp on it, and it was fixed relatively quickly. But like I said, it didn't affect any customers as far as outages or anything. We didn't have to isolate. We didn't have, so those were good things. We had a landowner just outside the hamlet that said that they could use the hydrovac waste and some soil that we had to remove, so that reduced cost for shipping and disposal for some of those things. But this morning I just got the bill for it, so just the Brooks Asphalt contractor bill for it was $30,000. So it was a significant repair just because it was so difficult to find. We knew approximately where we should start, just going off of experience and what we've seen in the past. But like I said, it took a little bit to find it, so that's why it was an issue. But everything's repaired now. Everything, looking at the SCADA trends, it dropped back right down to almost no demand at night, and right after the break, the demand dropped significantly. So we're very confident that there are no more other leaks in the area or anything like that for the time being. So we're really happy with how it went after we were able to locate it. Moving on, we're doing our regular spring, fall preventative maintenance tasks that we do that I've addressed council on before. We usually do the flushing of the distribution systems in Tilly and Lake Newell Resort, the hamlets that do have the infrastructure to do that with the fire hydrants. So we'll be doing that shortly. We just finished a couple days ago the maintenance of the Lake Newell Resort sewage force main that goes from the lift station to the city of Brooks. There's 10 air release valves on that, so we go out with a hydrovac, suck out all the manholes, and do the maintenance on those air release valves. That's part of our fall maintenance that we do. So that's been completed. We will also be cleaning out the sewage lift stations, the 4 that we do look after in the hamlets that have them. There again, just it's good procedure to do all that cleaning while the weather is mild, and then we usually don't have any problems then throughout the course of the winter when nobody wants to be dealing with them in the cold of winter kind of thing. So those will be completed shortly. In late wastewater collection, we've been dealing with this report that MP's been doing for the assessment for the Lake Newell Resort lift station. After talking with county staff, we increased the scope a little bit. We had all the pricing and all the recommendations for MPE to do repairs and bringing up any deficiencies up to where it would be acceptable. But they thought it would be nice for MPE to give us a quote or a breakdown of what it would cost to install a whole brand new lift station to compare. So I'm confident in being able to share that with you now that it's been completed. So we are looking at the deficiencies to bring it up to where it should be. It's about a $421,000 estimate. And to build a completely brand new lift station, they're estimating at $1.336 million. So that's the two ends of the spectrum if you want to refurbish the one that's currently there, as opposed to building a whole new brand new one beside it kind of thing. So that's where we're at. Once your staff are back from hunting season, we'll sit down and discuss this, and they'll obviously bring a proposal to you for a decision kind of thing on that moving forward. That is the extent of my report that I have. If there's any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer them.
Thank you, Cole. Are there questions from council? Greg, please, go ahead.
Just wondering on that leak, is there any type of equipment that you can buy that can scan for a leak like that? $30,000 is quite a bit just to find out where it's at. Is there there's all kinds of equipment out there. You think there would be something for ground moisture or something like that?
The problem with that is just the location where the previous leak was and the current one, as well as what we're seeing for moisture wise in a neighbor on that intersection. That whole area was saturated with water pretty bad. Just for the amount of water that was leaking, the leak was causing about between 1 and 2 liters a second. And like, if it doesn't come to surface, it's really hard. You're right, there are technologies out there, especially in bigger cities, metropolitan areas that use leak detection. It's cost prohibitive in this situation. You can do monitoring, real-time in a SCADA system with sensors on hydrants and stuff like that, and it works better with different pipe materials. That's smaller diameter HDPE plastic pipe doesn't work as well either, so you're kind of hit and miss there anyway. Even if you had it, may not have been able to pinpoint it any closer than where we knew it was anyway.
Okay, thank you. Amanda, please.
Cole, you said that you put the excess water and soil on adjacent land. Is that common practice?
If they need it for fill, yeah, that's not an issue because they're just going to take it to their site or the landfill or some place like that. It's not contaminated soil by any stretch because it's just, water and soil. So, but they have to go and dump it somewhere. And being in Rolling Hills, they're looking at either taking it back to Brooks Asphalt or Smith, one of their properties, or to the landfill. You're looking at a lot more transportation costs than just going outside Rolling Hills boundaries.
Well, I think that's a great idea. How do you get on that list? Like, I just think that's a good way of reusing and reducing, right? Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Holly, question?
So the cost of that $30,000 cost is split between all water users, is that correct?
That would be a Matt question. I'm not sure how you guys account for that.
Go ahead, Matt.
Yeah, so utilities is always fun when it comes to costing. For repairs and maintenance, we look at a 3-year average. This year is going to bump up the running average, and it's always a lot of this. You never have an actual average year. You either have, it was an excellent year, nothing showed up, or you have a very expensive year. And when Cole was talking about the level of effort out there, I had $30,000 in my mind. So I was not surprised by the price tag. Rolling Hills is an expensive system. It consistently springs leaks. In my mind, I think when we get through the rural water project, we find out what this new local government fiscal framework looks like from the province. Some of our hamlet systems need some TLC, and we need to figure out the math on that. Just for council's information, to put it into perspective, we can spend $30,000 every other year or consistently, I think, in Rolling Hills. Or we can look at doing some improvements. $1 million through the Finance Authority today, you need about $80,000 a year to service that debt over 25 years. So at a certain point, it's going to make more sense financially for us to recapitalize that system. And it's old. It's not reliable.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Thanks for your report, Cole. Thanks for coming in today.
You're welcome.
Let's move on to our Director of Municipal Services report, Mr. Terry Schroeder. Welcome. 11.2.
Good morning, everyone. Hit the right button. Anyway, I think Mark is hanging out. I believe he went to BC for a family vacation. So quickly, yes, it is good. So didn't give me heads up, but this is my job when he's not here. So I'm going to do my best to go through his report, give you a few highlights, and then do my best to answer some questions. So we'll start off with municipal enforcement. This is something that we always cover in our safety meetings too. October focus was on school, cycling, alcohol, or September focus, I guess, drug impairment and speed. So that's just stuff that they focus on for the month with drivers. October will be pedestrian, safety, wildlife, and fatigue. For September, looks like they issued 26 warnings, 36 tickets, and conducted 7 investigations. I know we chatted a little bit about this too, that they got a couple of people going pretty quick here too. So it looks like a 45 and a 69 over posted speed. I think it might be on the road up here. So anyway, yeah, those are I think like instantly go to court, do not pass go type stuff. So I know we did set up one of our trucks to replace the one vehicle that got damaged here this springtime. We got that fish truck all set up, ready to go. And then, of course, the officer's all ready to go back to work. And then Mr. Leaks actually resigned here. So he's done here, I think, next week sometime. So 8 years. I could not believe he was here for 8 years. So time sure flies. He'll be missed. Fleet services, so this is kind of my gang, pretty much busy keeping everything moving, a lot of moving parts, fall's coming. We're focused on getting all our equipment ready for snow removal, right? So getting all our plow trucks going. I think we have them all ready to go. We have our new one sitting in the shop here, and I think I just had orientation here this morning, so that truck will also be ready to go on the road. So in the event that we get snow in January, our trucks will be all ready to go, so... yeah, and then other than that, we've had our fleet assistant. She's been off for about a month now, or a little bit better. So we've had somebody else down there helping. Awesome, some good fresh eyes on how we do stuff down there. There's a lot of us have been involved in this for a long time, so fresh eyes are awesome. So definitely giving us a lot of assistance down there, lots of thoughts and ideas. So it's kind of exciting and cool to have somebody down there with another set of eyes. Operations, grader operators, out busy dealing with our same stuff with our roads, still dry. The moisture was nice to have, did make the top inch a little bit moist. So we are trying to get through the roads here. I'm guessing one more rotation. So we do get a lot of concerns on when our roads are going to get graded. I think our oil fields still pretty busy, but definitely our agriculture activities, I think they're kind of tailoring off a bit there too. So just getting caught up with roads and hopefully get everything all ready for winter coming in January, right? And then of course they've been busy getting their graders ready to go too. So by next week, I think we'll have all the graders ready for winging and ready for the winter coming Truck drivers, we've done our gravel program, finished about mid-September. They helped out doing some cleanup on bridges and stuff like that. Give it a hand, they might help out a little bit with snow fence. And then, of course, they're back to stockpiling. So our stockpiling program is given or two, or we'll start on that here pretty quick. That usually keeps them busy for the winter. So maintenance operators, we had 32 sign replacements, Patricia Grader's shack, that's our last site, location's done, so it's chain link fenced off, electrical's done, so all our graders are all kind of in a nice, neat, locked, secured compound. Yeah, other than that, I know I have them out collecting culverts with our GPS system. This is something that it's been on our list for a long time, so we're actually going out there and see if we can get a really good assessment on how many culverts we have out in the county, and then of course roll them into our asset management plan and replacement. We have lots out there, so it's finally, signs are good, we got a good idea on them too, but culverts is probably one of our last pieces of the puzzle to get a good inventory out there on them, what we have. I did mention we had our truck, it's actually the new truck sitting in the shop there, really excited about that. And then we did bore our cat to Newell Regional Waste for about 2 weeks. Typically what they do is every year and a half, they have some major maintenance, or they have heavy duty maintenance on their equipment. So it usually goes to Calgary. So we rent our cat to them to use for a couple of weeks so they don't miss out on any of their activities there. So engineering, Jeff's World, I know they're going hard, crops are off, so they're making good progress with the water program. You can go through that. If you have any questions, I can pass it on to Jeff. Pretty straightforward. Silver Sage, everybody see we're going on that there. I know they're getting close to the final coat of asphalt there, hopefully done by Friday, and a little bit of cleanup, so that's looking a little bit better out there. And then Mark's Pathway 2, I don't give an update. I think they got from Kinbrook to Bantry Bay done, and it's looking good too. I walked half of it the other day. I can't do it in an hour, so I have to park my truck, boot, so looks good. Other business, field day. You guys, most of you, well, just about everybody was all there, and I think it was a good success, fun time, so next year, it's awesome, except for Dan. That's all I have for Mark, so if you have any questions, I'll do my best.
Thanks, Terry. Are there any questions? Amanda, please.
Morning, Terry. When you say culverts, how many are you ballparking? What are you thinking?
Between 3,000 and 5,000. And that's just from experience. And then, we have so many kilometers of road and so many. I wouldn't be surprised if we had 5,000 culverts. It's a big job to collect.
What do you do? Just GPS them?
Yes. Yeah. It's really quick now. So we just got a Trimble that the staff can use. Hit one end, hit the other end, put in 3 or 4 fields and go on. So really quick, I hope. Yes. Yeah.
Good. Interesting. Thanks. Kelly, go ahead.
Speaking of numbers, how many Texas gates, or whatever you call them now, do we have running across county roads? Because we now license them or permit them, right? So you must have a number.
Oh, ballpark, close to 200. I can figure it out. I can get a number because we do have. Those are all GPS location too. So around 300 we collect. Not of them are not on our roads or adjacent. But there's lots out there. That's where ballpark is.
Okay, I didn't realize it was that high.
Yeah. Okay, Lynette, go ahead.
When you said you had the truck ready for the peace officer, that's just the interim truck. That's not the actual unit. Okay.
Yeah, correct. I don't think that one's like a year out.
Yeah. Thank you. Any other questions? Seeing none, thanks for coming in this morning, Terry, and we'll look for a motion to approve the municipal development report. Ellen, please, all in favor of acceptance of the report, please indicate. That's carried. Thank you.
I'm not leaving you.
No. Why is that? Manager of Operations. Go ahead.
Okay, part of my list of stuff to do for this year. Anyway, there's 2 old policy, well, they're old policies that I just brought forward, basically just bringing them up to date a little bit and shaping them up a little bit. So there is one for the Kinbrook Island Park maintenance, road maintenance. We do have an agreement with the province, and short little agreement. It was attached in there, just basically assigning that, yes, we will do required maintenance in the Kinbrook cabin area. So if you guys are familiar, that's where you get into the park there. They got the kind of two little loops in there too. So we primarily just put calcium down there and grade it up when it's needed. So not very much maintenance required in there, and then just deal with locals in there too. So short agreement, short and sweet, works well. Do visit with the guys, or like the park staff, every couple of years if they have any concerns. So that's the first one we have in there for to look at. And then the second one is old school signs. I don't know if you but most of you probably would have noticed out and about, there's all these old school signs that they're metal, I think. This is a policy that I've never seen an application or something like this. So I'm guessing 90s, 2000s, people might have come. 2000s, yeah. Yeah, so this just gave an avenue for a landowner to come to our department. They sign an agreement, and basically we will supply them with a sign, and the landowners are responsible for maintenance and future replacements and stuff like that too. So I couldn't even find an agreement. I didn't look that hard, and I don't even know how many we have out there. There's, yeah, quite a few. I tried to look for that too. Somebody's going to ask me how many, and I didn't look too hard, but they're out there.
Thanks, Terry. Holly, you got a question or comment?
Oh, just some brief history. It was Kermit Anderson and Scandy in the early 2000s who saw it in different county, and he went to a lot of work to locate all the school signs where they should all be. It was a big project, so it was pretty much done in one block by one, or some dedicated individuals, of which I was not one of them.
And it's kind of cool. When I was looking back on how they originally served this area, so they would have taken a township 6 miles by 6 miles, and what they did is in each township they would designated a certain section for schools, a certain section for churches and stuff like that too. So I think you go back on that. I did not know that, and it is cool that every section had a 6 mile school, church, community hall and stuff like that too. So a lot of them I think kind of fall on that grid too. I kind of poked into it. It's neat. It's kind of cool how they set stuff up back in the early 1900s. So
you're right, that is interesting. Any other questions? We have a recommendation with regard to the Kinbrook Island policy and also the old school site signs. Adina, please.
I'd like to move that we approve those two policies as presented.
Thank you. All in favor, please indicate. That's carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. Let's move back to 10.2, canceling of our upcoming Committee of the Whole meeting. Matt, do you have some comments? We have a printed material on that, or a presentation for a request for decision.
Yeah, not much more to add. It is a full time of year. Everybody's busy in budget prep. The call for agenda items went out. There were 2 that were received. One that fits really good with our budget meeting, which is essentially a Committee of the Whole meeting anyways, that we'll have in November, and another that can wait for an upcoming meeting of council. We're thinking January for that. So in the absence of agenda items and preferring to spend time working rather than in a meeting just looking at each other, we're recommending that we cancel that.
Thank you, Matt. Are there any questions or direction with regard to the request for decision? Lynette, please.
I was ready to make the motion to cancel that meeting.
I will accept that. All in favor of the motion, please indicate. That's carried. Thank you. Item 10.3, Recreation Facility Asset Management Course. Lane and Dustin, please. Welcome again.
So we've been trying to work with and support our recreation organizations in the operation of their facilities. And Dustin has come across a workshop that is available and wanting to consider making funds available that would cover the cost of registering individuals from these community groups and encouraging them to take the long view when it comes to maintaining their facilities. So the request for council is to allocate up to $2,000, and we would make information available to recreation groups and encourage them to have an individual participate in these workshops. They are virtual, so they would be able to do it from the convenience of their home, but we think it would certainly be a step in the right direction.
Okay, thank you. Any questions? Neil, go ahead.
I think that is an excellent idea. If there's any way we could make it compulsory for somebody from each board to be there, because that's a big ticket item. It's coming up in budget, and I would make the motion that we approve at least the 2,000.
Okay, are there any other questions or discussion with regard to this? Holly, please.
Yeah, I was just actually curious about the course, because reading through it, I was kind of wondering if how much it applies to the smaller facilities that aim more towards, say, because one session was specifically on ice or something. So is it more sort of like people have like community rinks? Like, do you have any more information that could kind of who to be targeted by this as opposed to just everyone?
Go ahead, Dustin.
Yeah, so this is kind of a higher level course. It might not apply to all our recreational facilities, but I do think there's some helpful nuggets in there that they can take away from these kind of 2-hour sessions, specifically more in the life cycle planning aspect, and probably the preventative maintenance, I think, would be really helpful things that we could kind of target with them. So not every session might apply to every recreation group or facility, but I think there will be helpful tidbits they can take away for this dollar value from attending.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions or comments? We have a motion to approve the recommendation as presented. Your question, Adina? Go ahead.
So what was your plan as far as getting this information out to our different boards and stuff?
We are going to be sending out an information package to all of the community groups on another initiative, and we'll just include this information as well and encourage them to take a serious look at this and take advantage of the opportunity.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Seeing none, all in favor of the motion to approve the recommendation? That's carried. Thank you. Thank you, Lane and Dustin. We will move to item number 10.4. Right after the break. I suggest we'll take about 7 minutes, please. Pardon me? Moving on to item number 10.4, the policy 030-23, our personnel policy. Matt, please.
Yeah, so I had received a number of suggested edits from our HR department relating to our administration of pension. Every third year, we're audited. Our pension policy and procedures are audited, and we get better and better at documenting these things. So those are recommendations we've received back from the Pension Authority. And then a few minor things, updating references. And what you could maybe consider major, depending on how you look at it, is removing the provision that holidays proclaimed by the federal government be added to the list of paid holidays. That provision, we have not followed that in the past, and we don't follow all of the holidays that the provincial government say are optional. We have only allowed for some of those. So removing the federal reference will save us conversations with the union representative who, at the last proclamation of a federal holiday, was wondering why we had not granted that to the union. So luckily, this is our personnel policy, isn't baked into the union contract, but I wanted to get that federal reference out of our personnel policy. There for your review, open to amendments, and we're recommending approval as presented.
Thanks, Matt. Are there any questions? Seeing none.
Give Derek.
Holly.
Well, the changes were quite extensive, but I don't understand a lot of it, so I'm going to motion for approval.
Okay, thanks. Thank you. We have a motion on the floor. Just a question. It's not, doesn't need to be in the, I guess the LAPP, the Local Authorities Pension Plan, I think it looked like the definition or the long title was taken out. It probably needs, it's not a big deal, but that's just an edit, I think.
Expanding the acronym?
At least once, so that it's, yeah. That's what I noticed, at least once in the policy is all, yeah. Good. All in favor of the motion to approve, please indicate. That's carried. Thank you. 10.5, the policy accidents and disciplining for failure to report.
So Matt just
please.
walked you through the changes to the personnel policy. This policy now is redundant, and there's no point in having something on the books that isn't required. So we're recommending that it be rescinded.
Okay, thanks, Lane. Lynette?
I'll make the motion to rescind the policy as per recommendation.
Thank you. All in favor, please indicate. That is carried. Thank you. Now, item number 10.6, Electoral Division Boundary Review. Matt, you've presented some information for us.
Yeah, so we've had a number of conversations about how we go about an electoral division boundary review. The last conversation we had with council, we were provided some loose recommendations to take 4 pages and condense it. So we've got 2 pages for you to look at here. A few survey questions. I kind of struggle every time we kick a survey out on something like SurveyMonkey. I'm always concerned about the validity of the results. So I did ask Lane to reach out to a pollster to price out what would it cost to have somebody actually use the scientific sampling method. And anyways, it'd be cost prohibitive. $15,000 gets you a sample of 100, and I think we could probably do just as well or better kicking out a SurveyMonkey. So that's what we've recommended. A few questions. Are you in favor of proceeding with it? And the second, if you are, what should the number of divisions be? Keep it at 10, go to 9, go to 7. So we're open to additional edits coming from council, and we'd like to kick this out next week if we could and have results back to you for our meeting in November. We'd kick SurveyMonkey out, and we'd also accept hard copies.
Okay, thanks, Matt. That's good information. Questions? Ellen, please.
I have a question. One can also fill out the survey forms and drop them off at the office, but there is no address. So I'm thinking this may be helpful to put it on the form.
Yeah, certainly.
Okay, thanks. Greg?
Oh, I just went down. So, anyhow, I should be talking in a higher voice or something, I think. What was I going to ask? Yeah, I think this is important definitely to do. I can't remember what I was going to ask.
Okay, thank you. The question's answered. Holly, please.
I really like the condensed version for one thing. Just in the paragraph that starts at the table below summarizes, I think it might be beneficial to take out at the provincial level and just say about how we're going to aim for 25%. I'm just wondering that might confuse people a bit. If it just say what our plan is, might be sufficient.
Okay, that's a good point. Greg?
I kind of like the government requirement to be within 25%. I like that because it gives a higher level, and this is actually being kind of mandated by the provincial government. It's not, but it's being suggested. I shouldn't say mandated, being suggested by the Alberta government is my understanding of it. And also, just what I was going to ask before is, can we get some hard copies printed and at the county office here so that so there maybe is some that we can hand out?
Okay, thank you. Dan, please.
So the 25% deal with the province, we asked the Minister of Municipal, whatever.
Affairs.
Yeah, we asked him, what is our standard? And he says there's a Supreme Court ruling that says it has to be 25%. Is that not good enough for you? And that was as good as he would give us from the province, that's what we are required to follow. So the 25% from the province, I believe, is important and should be left in there.
Okay, thank you. Neil?
Yeah, I think it should be left in too. We have to do this. It's not like we have a choice because we were told that you could challenge the election just because we didn't when we have an election in 2 years. So the more numbers you get out there, let people know exactly where it is. We kind of have to clear this up because right now our votes aren't scattered very even across this table.
Okay, thank you.
That's proportionately.
Yeah. Any other questions or comments? We have a recommendation. Holly, go ahead.
It's just a question. If the vote was to stay with 10 councillors as it is, do we still have the latitude to draw lines to change it? Or like, where exactly does that lie?
Yeah, so in my view, this is a valuable exercise. Council is offering an opportunity for the public to engage. I'm not, and I should be more optimistic when we go to the public for a survey. I'm not optimistic that you're going to get a set of results that you'll feel you can rely on. So I think this is going to come back to council, and ultimately you're going to need to make a decision come November whether you proceed with the effort. But I think it's important to give the community an opportunity to respond. And I would love to be proven wrong. Hopefully there's all kinds of survey results that come back. And if you have a really robust response that says one way or the other, that makes your decisions a little bit easier, more informed.
Thanks.
But you're not obligated to proceed one way or the other.
No, I think that's important context, and I appreciate the way you've put that. If there's direction, that's good. I don't think we need to feel, that we have to do something. Go ahead, Neil, please.
Yeah, just a question for Matt. Didn't the previous council do a lot of this groundwork already? And then it got shut down by your court case and go ahead. Matt?
Yeah, there was a lot of effort put into the previous. I think there were a number of lessons learned from that as well, what the public would expect to see in terms of additional opportunities to engage. So if the decision is made to proceed, one of the things you'll see come from administration is a recommendation that you hold a few open houses for folks to kick around any proposed boundary changes. I think we heard that loud and clear last time. And to not rush the process as well. So we'll be sure to meet those standards.
Good, thank you. Any other questions or direction with regard to the decision we have to? Go ahead, Dan.
I'd motion we'd approve this based on option 1.
As recommended?
As recommended, yep.
Okay, any further questions or comments? Seeing none, all in favor of the motion, please indicate. That is carried. Thank you. I think we are down to item number 10.7, requests for functions of council. Do we have any to add? Go ahead, Amanda, please.
Economic Growth Forum, 2023, October 26th and 27th in Medicine Hat.
Right. And how do you want to handle that? Do you want to leave it open, or do we want to send a couple of representatives? What's your preference there? Greg?
Yeah, I think it's important. I know on joint services, this is part of our discussion also, but I definitely would like to go. I think sending a couple representatives from the county here is important.
Okay, thank you. Do you have a motion to that effect? Or direction with regard to the specifics?
Yeah, I would make a motion to support this endeavor being for 2 people as a function of council.
Okay, thank you. Lynette, please.
Before we vote on that, what is this forum? Like, I don't know any background on it.
Matt, have you got some background, or I think this is an annual. It's been held before or something similar.
The email came out on Tuesday, if you didn't see it in your email.
Then who typically would attend this in the past? If it's
Neil, you've got a.
Yeah, I think 2 kind of throttles us back a little bit. This is it's not really, it's more like a PR thing to, talk to people in our position. So I'd leave it wide open. We're not all going to go, but 2 is not very many.
Greg, and then Dan.
Can I change my motion?
Sure.
I'd like to change the motion to just making this event a function of council, and yeah, whoever wishes to go. It is an economic forum, so it is great for economic development. Anybody who would be interested in that part of our endeavors is, I think it'll be beneficial for them.
Okay, thank you. Is that a two-day event, right? Yeah. Okay, thanks. Dan, did you have a comment?
I was going to question if this is the same one that they hosted at the college last year. Is it the same kind of event as that, or is this a completely different one? But I've just got the email pulled up. I'm looking into that right now.
Yeah, that's the information I'd be able to offer is the content of the email, right? Come join us as elected officials, municipal administrators, community leaders, economic development agencies, and more. Some of the topics: regional economic development, energy transition, investment attraction in agriculture, workforce development, housing, and agribusiness in Southeast Alberta. So it sounds like a pretty broad range of topics. These are always good idea sessions, good networking opportunities, see what others are doing in the region.
Okay, thank you. We have a motion to make this a function of council. All in favor, please indicate. Okay, that's carried. Thank you. Are there any others? Kelly, go ahead, please.
I would like to make a function of council, if you so agreed. October the 22nd, Cypress County is hosting an Ag Connections, sorry, November 22nd.
That was approved to function of council last time.
Thank you. I thought it was, and then somebody told me it wasn't, so.
We just never confirmed. We talked about getting tickets and people going, but we never followed up if there was a number or if we're going to coordinate that, but it was a function of council.
Thank you. November 22nd, Egg Connect, and it's at the rodeo grounds in Medicine Hat. So maybe we could do some organization now on that. Who plans to go on November 22nd? Okay, so we should write names down and ask Ariana to, thank you. You got it? Oh my gosh, you're good. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other functions of council? Seeing none. We are down to post-agenda items. Were there any? We had none. Information items. That's a short list as well. So we're good. We have delegation, and I believe that our delegation from the Bow River BRS, sorry, look at my notes here. Bow River Basin Council, yeah. Mike Murray, and you've brought some support with you, so welcome.
Yeah, safety in numbers.
That's right, yeah. We appreciate your willingness to come in today to meet with us. So I think maybe what we should start with, yeah, just take the seats there, and we'll start with introductions, and then invite you to make a presentation to us. I'm Arno Dirksen from the Reeve of the County, and I'm from the GEM area, which is the north edge of the county of Newell. Move to Neil, please.
Neil Johnson, Division 10. I think your organization is going to be extremely important in the next few years if what's happening now keeps up. So good to see you.
Good morning. Amanda Philpott, Division 8, Duchess.
Good morning, Ellen Unra, and I represent the area around the village of Rosemary.
Hi, welcome. Greg Screever, Division 5, Lake New Resort and Castles.
Morning, I'm Kelly Chrisman. I'm from the west side of the county where that dam is.
Welcome, Matt Fensky, County Administrator.
Good morning, Holly Johnson, Division 4, Scandia, Rainier, and Bow City, and we are bordered on the south by the Bow.
Good morning, Adina Scandrup, Division 2, Tillian area.
Good morning and welcome. I'm Dan Short from Division 1, and we're straight downstream of Holly.
Hi, I'm Lynette Kopp. I'm Division 3, the northeast corner around Patricia Millicent area.
Okay, thanks. Catherine?
Catherine Siakla, Communications Officer.
Ariana Nielsen, Executive Assistant.
Good morning, Sandra Stanway, Brooks Bulletin.
Okay, thank you. And if you'd introduce yourselves, I have all your names in my memory, but I can't bring it all up at the same time. Brooke, I remember that, and I remember Mike. Go ahead.
All right, so I push this button. Good morning.
I'll push it again. You need a red.
One more
There you
time.
go.
Aha. Good morning. I'm Mike Murray. I'm the Executive Director with the Bow River Basin Council, and I've had the pleasure of working with the council for since 2003. So I can introduce Steve Meadows. He is our chair of the Bow River Basin Council, as well as Brooke Capeller, our program manager, who makes everything happen at the BRBC. So very important person, both of them, with the organization. Thank you very much for the chance to come and talk to you guys today. It's one of the pleasures we have is to connecting with our partners and our members and the folks that live in the Bow Basin. We don't get to do it as much as we would like to, and so we really like this opportunity. And I think one of the things that kind of being behind the shadow of COVID is that it's become even more important to make these connections and to meet people and to have this conversation that we're having. So just a few quick little facts around the basin. It's a very small basin, yet there's a lot of people that live here and there's a lot of demands on this river. It's also a significantly major, hardworking river where there are 15 weirs and dams that are on the river, as well as other major demands upon it. So it's a little tiny basin, really, with a lot of people who rely on it for everything. And the council first started out as a task force, and the first thing we were asked to do was look at water quality. But since then, we have moved on to many different aspects of watershed management. One of the things I'm really particularly proud of lately is we've been able to do a bit more with things like maps. And so quite quickly, instead of trying to describe the Bow Basin and talk about where the Rockies are, where the prairies are, you can just take a look at the map and you can see there's the county of Newell there. And even though not all of it is in the Bow Basin, I think almost all of it is serviced by Bow waters. As you can see with the irrigation districts, about 50% of each irrigation district in the Bow Basin is 50% in the basin, 50% out of the basin. So the Bow waters are not only servicing our basin, but also the basin surrounding it. And of course, Newell County is an important part of 11% of the basin itself. We tend to think of water as being the same every year. It comes at least some people do, maybe not the folks in this room, but we kind of expect it to kind of be something that just comes out of a tap. It's always there, we can rely on it. But as you can see from the past, it's very variable, and we have to manage ourselves very carefully to be able to live within the dynamic that is the river. And so, some years we'll have, like we're experiencing now, very bad drought conditions. And in 2013, all anybody could talk about was too much water. So it's interesting how, as a population, we focus on drought and floods only really when they're happening, and we tend not to worry about them too much in the between times. And that's where the role of the Bow River Basin Council is, I think, very important, that we can look at some of these issues in the 10 or 20-year horizon, and talk about these with all the partners in the communities within the basin before they're a real problem. And so maybe we can have some of the answers or some help for when these times happen. I think most of us know that most of the water that we get in the Bow River comes from snowpack, about 80%. 19 is coming from groundwater and rain, and then there's a tiny little bit that comes from our glaciers. Now, glaciers, although a small amount of the water that we get in our river system, the timing of when that water comes is very important. So as our glaciers become smaller, that's a big consideration, I think, in how we're going to manage water in the future, when we won't have that 1% to rely upon. So there's more than this in terms of the challenges. There are watershed management, water management is a very complex issue. There's many people involved. There are no easily found silver bullets to solve some of these things, and that's where I think that the strength of the organization comes from, by being able to rely on our membership that comprises most of the folks that work in this basin. And getting everybody together to kind of get those created solutions that includes everyone, and really tries to tackle some of these very challenging problems that we have. And the BRBC, we like a challenge. And so this is why people get involved with our organization. They see these problems, they're passionate, they work in this area, they want to do something, they want to be of help. And this goes from individuals, such as our chair. He's an individual member and has a wealth of experience coming from his professional background. He's bringing that to the organization, as well as the folks that we have in irrigation and municipalities and others. We're all here because we want to make things better, and we want to secure our future. I was just talking about our membership. These are some of the examples of where our membership comes from. We have about 450 members, around 700 active participants, because some organizations have more than one active participant per member. So, and they relatively cover most of the sectors that are in the basin, and we try very hard to make sure we're not just a Calgary-looking west type of organization. We really do try to get all the voices from the entire basin involved in the discussions. These are the kind of the four major roles that we have. We bring people together to work on the problems. We work with our stewardship groups and other groups to look at the monitoring and reporting side of things. We get involved in planning and policy activities. And we have quarterly forums, newsletters, workshops, where we try and tackle many of these issues and try to involve as much of our membership as we can, because the membership is the real power behind this organization. These are some things we're working on. The important part is the way that we see ourselves involved in these projects. We don't always lead. We don't always follow. We're generally around, and we try to be that group in the middle that's pulling all of those groups together and getting a cohesive effort towards a larger project. This Okotoks Bioretention Research Facility started off as a small $250,000 grant that we then gathered more participants and more funding, and at the end was over $1 million project. And in the middle, it was very nice of them to put us in the middle, but that's kind of how we see ourselves, in the middle, pulling all the groups together. So we are working on a new project that started this fall, looking at groundwater and surface water, and how is water moving below the glaciers through the watershed, not just at surface, but also the groundwater, and how that's connected, and where are the meeting points between groundwater and surface water. We're doing some monitoring that's been sponsored by the FRIA, and one of the things that we're just starting this year as a pilot project is helping to coordinate municipal and provincial efforts in weeds management along the Bow Corridor. And that's something I think we do very, very well, because we're taking 5 or 6 different organizations and helping them coordinate their efforts, so we can maybe do a more comprehensive job that helps each other out, and not just doing it all in isolation. And then one of our, the biggest project we're working on currently is the State of the Watershed Report. We've been doing those since 1991, and this time is, we are hoping to be the best yet, and it's going to be an online ArcGIS-based information portal where we can not only give you a snapshot in time of how this basin is doing and in its specific reach, but also allow for many connections to the groups that are doing the research, where other information is coming from, and allowing someone to be this place to be the starting point of your learning about something. And you learn a lot by looking at the State of the Basin report, but if you want to go and find more research, more information, more technical data, we want to be one of the ways that you can find that. And of course, the issue that I think we're all really working hard on right now as a community is this drought situation. And the Bow River Basin Council has many ways that we're trying to communicate on this, working with the Interbasin Watershed Water Coordinating Committee, working with the municipalities. There's also a greater project going on with the WPACs, the Watershed Planning and Advisory Councils, that they have a bit of a drought responding kit, and to help municipalities, should they require it, some information on what are some help that they could get. This discussion is probably going to become more important this winter, because I think, as we all know, this was a very dry year, but it's only probably going to get worse if we don't get that snow and rain this winter. And so I think many organizations are working on what do we do if we might happen to go from, currently we're in a stage 4 situation, what happens if we start thinking about stage 5? So I think there's going to be a lot of conversations this winter about this really important message. And some of the big part about this is, a lot of time I've been hearing from quite a few folks that it's not just that we're in these stages, but to try and find information is a struggle. And so I think one of the things that the BRBC is going to try very hard to do this winter is to work on making sure people have a much easier time finding the information they need and not have to take quite so much time to try and find it. And if it's not there, to try and find a way to get that information, because it's difficult trying to navigate your way through these pretty troubling times if you can't even find some simple information that you need. So we're hoping it will be part of the solution for that. The state of the watershed. So I'm going to speak, but when I'm speaking, all of this work is being stick handled by very capably by Brooke. And the main reason why we can show all these beautiful maps is that we have Brooke here today and helping us with that. So this state of the watershed, as I said, we've been doing it since 1991. Our intent is to make this the most data intensive, most educational version we've ever put together, and easy to navigate. And we're working with groups like the University of Calgary, with the Global Water Futures Group, with other researchers to bring what they're developing is very technical information, but turning that into a more digestible set of information with links back to the technical information so that folks can get a better idea of what's happening in their particular part of the Bow Basin. This is a thing that we're trying to do the first time. In the past, we've been looking at these state of the watersheds as kind of like the elephant. We kind of pool our resources all at once and just desperately try to get it all done in a 2-year time period. This time around, we're actually trying to work with our stewardship groups. They've already got a lot of this information. They're the local knowledge experts. We're really leveraging off their knowledge to build these sub-watershed reports that'll hopefully be a lot more useful to folks that need them. Yeah, we're hoping to have that done by September 2024. Some of the items that we're trying to look at are things like ongoing projects that have been happening for a long time. The Phosphorus Management Plan was a 13-year project that's closed off, but that information has to be stored somewhere so people can learn from that, all the work that went into that. Climate change, riparian health, working with cows and fish, working with the University of Calgary and some master students on hydrology. Water quality, pulling together water quality experts from the province and from municipalities and from industry experts, trying to put together something that's simple to read about how is the water quality in the basin, and done in a way throughout the whole basin in a standard fashion. So if you're looking at Banff, or if you're looking in this area, you're going to get the information presented in the same way and understandable in the same way. And of course, there's the ongoing effort to try and map our wetlands, riparian areas, places where there is water, and places where we need to think about. This slide just talks about the partners we have currently in these projects, and this is hopefully an ever-building list. As we go through this, and as there's areas of expertise we require, we will be reaching out to those groups that we need to talk to, and just to get their thoughts. And one of the things about the state of the watershed is it's not supposed to be a problem-only kind of flagging activity, but instead a good news story that talks about why we all spend so much time working around water and managing it and planning around it. This is one of the coordination efforts we're doing on the invasive species coordination project, and some of the things that we're able to do is pull all this data together and put it in a GIS format so that the groups that are from municipalities that do weed control can take a look at what information we have and then start planning strategically where our next steps may be in that kind of a project. And then I've talked about the communication on drought before, but last February we had a workshop. We thought this was probably going to happen, so we thought it was a good idea to bring in all the groups that work on this kind of issue and get that discussion going. I think it's going to be the same topic, maybe a bit more details now in this next coming February, where we do bring in some more expertise and bring as many of our members together to talk about this and hopefully find some solutions. We're also, I mentioned there's going to be a bit of work with the Interbasin Water Coordinating Committee. As you see in stage 4, one of the things that happened is that the province is supposed to consult with the WPACs, and we're trying to make sure that consultation leads to some actionable items for WPACs to help not necessarily in the day-to-day emergency management. That's left best to the experts that already do it. but instead to look to those longer timelines. What are we missing on the communication planning? What are some of the ongoing work that we could feed into, that we could learn from, that would help if we do end up going into a stay in stage 4 or get into a stage 5 situation. So this is where I think a lot of our work will be focused, as not just the Bow River Basin Council, but the other SSRB, the South Saskatchewan River Basin WPACs, working with the province on some of those items. And yeah, it's. I think we're all praying for rain and looking for some snow in the mountains. I think we're all saw a little bit last weekend in the mountains, and hopefully it accumulates and gets more, because it hasn't been this dry since probably 2001, and this has got everybody concerned, as they should be, about what we're going to do in the coming future. This slide is just outlining where some of the information currently lies within this water app, and it's a great app, but there could be improvements. So if anybody has any suggestions of what is missing from this type of information, we'd like to hear that, and we'd like to take that on, pass that information on to those that are developing it, because there's already been some suggestions on what could be more available. There's a lot of discussion around things like apportionment and other things, and where do you find that information, and where do you find it in a timely manner? You don't want to know what happened last year. You kind of are more interested in what's happening right now. And so how do we make that kind of information available? This is some of the stuff that we've been asked to comment on or report on in the past, and we've been lucky enough to have some of our members. I know for some of our CBC interviews, we were very lucky to have Richard Phillips, who is our vice chair of the Bow River Basin Council, come in and speak quite intelligently about what the situation is, and what someone that doesn't work with water every day should be thinking about when they learn about our low water conditions. So we just finished our strategic retreat, and these are just kind of the things that we're looking at focusing on this year. And yeah, I think that definitely is where we're in this place now, where we're wanting to work with our partners and our members, and to do, I think, a lot of work this winter. And it's going to take our membership, as I mentioned before. That is the thing that makes the Bow River Basin Council tick, is our membership. There's so much wealth of knowledge and expertise and passion for water, and that's what drives the organization. And with that, I thank you for your time.
Thank you for that presentation. I think with regard to perspective on us, I mean, we recognize water from the Bow River to be water for life for this area, and certainly critically important to most of what happens here, and the success that has been developed. And I have to say too, I appreciate the balance that you bring. I haven't attended one of your meetings except for the last one, or the one I was at in Calgary for a number of years. I did a number of years, probably 10 years ago, and some other involvements. But appreciate the balance that you bring to the whole matter of the dynamic that we all face on the Bow River, and really about the balance. I think we live in a world that is very prone to activists and alarmists. And it's important, as you indicate, to have good information to base perspective on. It's easy to get off kilter on that if your sources are not accurate, and there's a lot of that around in our world today. So I appreciate the perspective that you bring to this, and I think we all do. And so I'll open it to questions. I have one relative to one of the presentations we heard in Calgary a few weeks ago, but I'll set that aside for now. Greg, and then Neil, please.
Hi, thanks for the presentation. My question is in regards to the city of Calgary. Are they taking an active part in the BRBC? And my second part of the question: are they taking our drought situation seriously? Are they communicating to their residents and people and industry how important our water is important to, especially southern Alberta?
Go ahead.
I got it. So the first answer is the City of Calgary is taking this very seriously. For the first time ever, they've put a water restriction on the citizens. Now, the trick with that is that it's not always apparent. The water still comes out of the tap, so I don't think there's a sense of distress by the citizens, but they are having to follow a water restriction, so they're taking that seriously. They've just released they've taken to council, I think in the last month, a drought plan that the BRBC supported. And it has 5 or 6 key elements into it. And one of them is to use less water overall as a municipality. So I think they are taking it very seriously. It's one of those things that I think that the staff and council probably are aware of these situations, but the citizens aren't so much. It's a large task to try and get public understanding, but I think they're doing as best they can. And the understanding that you can't find new water, we only have so much, and so we all have to find a way to use it, and we can't just disregard what our neighbors downstream or upstream are doing, because it's all important part of the system. Yeah.
Thank you. Neil, please.
Yeah, I have kind of a question for you. As return flows diminish and your water situation becomes tighter, everybody tries to use up all their water. Even 15 years ago, they were talking about the bowl being over allocated if all those licenses were actually added up. Where is that sitting right now? Because I think those pieces of paper are the most important thing for the lifeblood of the whole river. And nobody wants to talk about the over allocation. Mm-hmm. And I personally, I believe it's already there. We're way over. How do you respond to that? Or what's your organization's take on how to deal with that? Because it's going to take some Colorado River negotiations to get out of this one if it comes to that.
Yeah, it's on. Yeah, the river is at least theoretically over allocated. I mean, if everybody pulled what they supposedly could, it just wouldn't work. We were part of the SSRB water management plan, and it was actually BOW advisory committee headed by BRBC that recommended closure of the BOW. Actually, we recommended a moratorium, but Alberta Environment was just looking for the excuse to close it. And the main thing we can do is continue to work with all the different stakeholders and bring it together to understand, what the dynamics are and what we can do about it. And through the auspices of the Alberta Water Council, last year there was a drought simulation held in Calgary, and that covered the whole South Saskatchewan, and it was really interesting and far more encouraging than I thought it would be. I ended up, we had too many people in the bowl, and I got told I was now part of the old man, and ended up with that group, and sat there, and there were people from Lethbridge, there were people from the irrigators, the people from Alberta Environment, talking about, we need to be ahead of this. And as a result of that workshop, they were sitting there saying, okay, let's put together a list of names of the actors that have to be on side and make sure it's up to date and have their phone numbers. And I sat there, for me, it was how to handle drought 101. I was just trying to take notes. It illustrated that cooperation and collaboration aspect is the most important thing we do. The people are there that understand this, understand the nitty-gritty of how it works and what can and can't be done. And as long as we can help keep them all talking to each other, then I think we have a reasonable chance to handle it. If we get next year is worse than this year, it's going to be tough. But, you know.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Dan, please, go ahead.
Just a question is hear you guys' thoughts on the old proposal for the Earmore Dam. What do you guys think of something like that, and how does that affect? Well, I mean, it obviously affects the river a great deal, but yeah, what's the council's thoughts on that kind of a thing?
Well, there's a process going on called SROM 3, which is South Saskatchewan River Operational Model, which was put together by WaterSmart. We're taking part in that process. And Airmore is one of the things that they're actively looking at. And certainly from the irrigation point of view, it's going to be beneficial. It'll allow more flexibility. One of the thing we have to keep in mind is that dams don't make water. And where we get in a situation like we're perhaps looking at this winter, it's not the first year that'll kill you, it'll be the second year, and you don't even want to think about a third year. And if there's, you know, so it's being looked at. Mike and I are going to be out in Drumheller for a WPAC summit next Wednesday and Thursday, and at the end of that summit, actually slightly before the end, I have to pull up plugs and run for Calgary because there is a SROM meeting Friday morning, and we want to make sure we're there, that the communication is going on, and there are a number of these processes going on, and it's quite impressive the range of knowledge that's being brought in. And I don't know if you're aware, but also in further down the road, there's a process that it was Bow River Working Group, and now the government has what they call their BRO, and Bow Basin Reservoir Options. And they're looking at one of three possible large dams upstream of Calgary. When it started up, it was flood mitigation. It's kind of morphed. I would say it's 25% flood mitigation now and 75% drought mitigation. But it will allow for flexibility, and that's what they're really aiming at, to make the best use of what water is there and to meet multiple needs. And but Airmore, as I said, it's certainly beneficial from the irrigation and from being able, it should be beneficial for balancing out water use overall.
Thank you. In the context of the comment around best use of water or the highest use of water, I found the presentation that we had in Calgary recently from WaterSmart with regard to the hydrogen demands for water to be quite informative and actually something that raises a question that may be rhetorical, but we don't have to answer it today. But I think that depending on what that answer is, it's probably in our best interest to have some context around that, because I guess the question that comes to my mind is that a first best use of water? Because and in the context of many of the water users on the Bow are recycling water, like it's used and returned at some level or some way back to the river. But my understanding of that presentation, and I don't have an in-depth knowledge of it, but basically hydrogen development production uses water, doesn't return anything back, and that creates a pretty real concern with regard to even the licenses on the Bow and who might get active doing different things there. And I wonder if it's, this is where the question comes in. I think we strategically need to discuss, is that a priority use for the Bow Basin water? And then a bigger concept around that even, because there's a lot of adaptation that's required for hydrogen to be a viable energy source across, any landscape or area, demographic. Maybe that's something that we do well to really consider before we invest a whole bunch of, and then there are certainly forces wanting to invest a lot of resources into that development, but I think we better take I guess I'm asking for your perspective on that. Like I said, we don't have to decide today, but I think even our council, if we're on the same page, and other groups have the opportunity to have some influence on how some of these conversations develop depending on what we think the outcome might be. So maybe you could comment on that.
Just a short digression first. There are 11 WPACs in Alberta, and they have a voice at the
WPAC, just
Water Protection Advisory Committee under the Water for Life Act.
Right.
We are one of the 11 WPACs. A while ago, I was asked to represent all 11 of the WPACs at the Alberta Water Council, and it was a bit of a mind stretcher, because if you're going to represent them, you should have at least know what their names are, which at the time I did not. But coming out of that and talking with the different EDs of these, when you say hydrogen, I look at it and I say, well, I'm sure Mighty Peace and Athabasca have the capacity and would be delighted. Now, whether that's where you want the hydrogen, that's a different question. In the Bow, the Old Man, somebody's going to have to explain to me how that would work. Where we're struggling to balance out municipal irrigation, big studies, and balancing that out. As you say, what keeps us going is the fact that most of the usage is returned. Speaking for myself, I don't see how it'll work. And as I said, somebody will have to explain it to me.
If the information is accurate, and I expect it is, I think maybe that's an area that we really need to pay attention to. And speaking personally, I guess not on behalf of council at this point, but I think we'd be quite interested to develop a strategy that has some influence, or tries to exert some influence over how this develops provincially, and certainly with regard to southern Alberta, because there are a lot of pressures isn't the right word, but there are a lot of interests in trying to develop the hydrogen model. And I think we do well to look at our Water for Life strategy before we jump into that one too closely, because we have a lot of other pretty viable energy sources that don't have the same demand for water, and we better get that in balance before we move too far down that road, I think.
Yeah, that is an issue that we've been kind of looking at and thinking, how do we get our heads around this? How do we get, more importantly, the heads together to maybe talk about this? Now, we have 4 different forums a year, and I think what we'll be doing is looking at whether we can get someone to come in and speak on that specific issue to a forum, and start to get more people actively discussing it. As long as, you know, no, as long as some of the critical decisions aren't made before we have a chance to even discuss it. And I think that's what we're all apprehensive of.
Well, I think it's in our best, I appreciate that. I think it's in our best interest to move where we can on that in the short term, and we certainly are interested in being a part of that, I'm sure. And just for council's information, that Water Smart presentation was presented in Calgary at your I think that was your last meeting, right? That I happened to attend, and that's been circulated to council, I believe. You probably haven't had a chance to look at it, and maybe it's something that we want to hear firsthand too, which I think would be a possibility through Water Smart. I would expect they'd come out and make
do you have a copy of the report too? I know you have the slides in your inbox from the presentation, but I can send the report to you as well.
I think if you'd pass that on to our to the office here, that would be useful for us, and
for sure.
just for educational purposes. I really think this is a front that we do well to try to get ahead of, because we're going to look back and like Mark Twain said, it's never mind. That's okay. I think it's just important to move in the right direction. Thanks. Go ahead.
My question is, my understanding is the South Saskatchewan River, the SSRP, is up for renewal next year. Will you be at the table?
I think we will. You're talking about the SSRP,
Which I understand Northern Alberta has not got in place from the first go-around yet, so kudos to the South for getting it in place, but it is up for renewal.
Yeah, I think as a partner in the Water for Life strategy, I think we do have a role to play, not just in what the plan says, but how it's been implemented and what are some wins and what are maybe some areas we need to do a bit more in. So I do know that there are some the beginnings of some planning initiatives that may be happening in the Kananaskis area and other areas like that, which will be connected to that as well. And so I think that that's our role, and we would hope to be there. And I don't expect that we wouldn't be. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. My understanding is you're joining us for lunch. Look forward to further conversation over lunch. And, appreciate your coming in today. Thanks for your presentation. And thanks also for the balance that you bring to reporting and good information. And I will quote Mark Twain after all, who said that it's often easier to fool people than it is to convince them that they have been fooled. So that I think just highlights the importance of good information, well presented, and I appreciate your efforts and your accomplishments in that area. So thank you. Okay. So with that, we'll break for lunch and reconvene after lunch. Thank you.
All right.
1 hour?